Oh, you're getting louder. No. Yeah. All right, we are live. Deanna, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. So this is Dr. Thomas. This is Spiritual Wisdom with Dr. Thomas, and I have a guest today, Deanna. And we are here just to talk about a couple things and to see how you want to go with this. So, um, welcome. I know it's a little late, but it's always technical difficulties when we start, right? That's the way it goes. Yes, no,
Always. Every
yes.
time.
So I apologize. I don't know if you guys are hearing this. I'm hearing a ringing. Um, I don't know if anybody else is hearing it. Maybe it's just coming through on my phone, my computer. But here we are. We're there. Um, so what are we talking about tonight?
You're asking me tonight. We're going to talk about a really cool new venture that we are starting and a new way of healing. Not reinventing the wheel, but doing it a little differently in a way that's going to be beneficial to, I think, a lot of people.
See, that makes sense.
It does.
I know. So before we go any further, I still am hearing the ringing. That's right. Before we go any further, let's take a moment and just, I want to recap some stuff. I want to recap in a nutshell the different ways of healing, how it's progressed over time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we're coming in saying, "Oh my goodness, we have this great new thing that's coming up and it's change the world." Let me preface this with everything is done at the right time, at the right moment for where we're at. Everything is done. Everything is done for the period we're in. And I'm muting Deanna. So if you need to talk, raise your hand because I don't know what it's a constant ringing I'm hearing. We must understand that all of us, every human, when we were brought into this planet, in the first time, when we all went to Lemuria once, most of us went to Lemuria, and when we were there, we were only there one time. Yes, there's Atlantis. There's a difference here. There's a whole other topic. Lemuria was one. It was the first. We went there, and that was only for one life, one expression. And then we went on to different places. And yes, people traveled from Lemuria in that life and left and went to other places. Atlantis. The biggest difference between Lemuria and Atlantis is multiple places. There isn't one. It is multiple Atlantises. Because all throughout the world, they were all coastline cities that were flooded and sank. So there are multiple versions of Atlantis. One Lemuria. But it's there that we were first taught Reiki. Everyone was taught Reiki. In early grade school, you were given your Reiki 1. In like the middle school age, you were given Reiki 2. And then if you chose and you wanted it, Reiki 3 was available when you got older, into your late teens, 20s. But that was optional. But we were all taught to heal each other, heal ourselves. It was instilled in us very early on, because that was the first iteration of humanity when we were here for that. And as we left Lemuria, as the years passed, every life we came back and we came up from different places on this planet, we slowly lost more and more of it. It was there, but it got lost. And it wasn't until the 1700s that it was brought back. Because it was time to rebirth, time to be reborn, time to set us up for what was going to happen next. I talk at this point about the shift that went on. The 19th century, the 1900s, the 20th century was really a pivotal time. It was a pivotal time for two different paths for humanity. Path one was what was prophesied by Nostradamus and many others. Basically, the end of the world as we knew it in the restart number 4. Path 2 was the opposite. That is where we are now. And so once we went through that, and there's other little things that happened, everything from World War II to the 60s, to then what happened in the mid to late 80s, the convergence that happened then, the shift then happened, and you saw then the physical things happened, the magnetic shift. You had the energy shift, the vibration of Earth all shifted in the 90s, all bringing us to where we are today. And it was around that energetic shift in the 90s where you saw both magnetic field shift. And for those that don't know, yes, it did shift. The magnetic field shifted so much that in the late 90s, all the airports realized their runways, which were all coded based upon magnetic north, had to be changed. Because magnetic north shifted. And at the same time, the vibration of the Earth, which was used for decades by the Army for its communication, is increased. Went from 7.2 to now it's above 11. It had not increased prior to then. All this happened in the 90s, and what happened then in the 90s, we had Reiki. It was really coming out there, getting more popular, and that is when integrated energy therapy came in. Now, Reiki is an alignment of the balance of the chakras. It's alignment of the energy. Human simplest terms, it's the alignment of the energy, the balance. Integrated energy therapy. You take the alignment. You spread it out a little bit because there's more than just the 7 chakras. You're hitting some specific pressure points in your energy field. But what you're doing with integrated energy therapy, which came out like in the 90s in a very specific way, is now healing your current life. You align with the Reiki. Heal your energy field. Get it flowing in the right way. Opening up your crown chakra, which actually then opens up your pineal gland. It opens up the 10th chakra and more. Opening up the fields. Integrated energy therapy. We are there with that. Removing things from this life that are no longer needed and replacing it with that which you need. That trust, that love, that innocence, that freedom, that faith, that ease and grace of flowing with life, forgiveness, safety. And then in 2012, the midway point of this current 30-year period, unity field healing was given out by the Syrians. Now, to understand this, I know I'm going to go deeper here. The Syrians are like the grandparents of the planet. The Palladians are the founders. They're responsible for the planet. The Syrians are like the parents of the Palladians. They're like the watch. They are like not oversee, because oversee is the wrong way. They are like if there's a parent, let's call them the godparents, the grandparents. They're the ones that are just there to help it along as needed. And the Syrians shared with Dr. John Ryan unity field healing. The unity field healing takes it to the next level. Reiki, aligning of the chakras and the balancing of the body and the energy around. Integrated energy therapy, let's heal this life, the current life we're in. Unity field healing, let's take the Akashic record. Let's now heal not just your life, but all the lives of the family members around you, all the burdens that is carried within your DNA sequence, within your 24th chromosome, within the Akashic record of not just you, but of all of your descendants, your ancestors. And it's not just about healing it, because it's not about healing it. It's about replacing that which you've been carrying for so long with what you should be carrying. Because we hold on to, isn't it? Our thoughts, even right now, our thoughts where they go, we hold on to so much that is not positive. So we take those not positive things and we push them off, and we replace it with the positive things from all of our past lives that we need to move us forward. And a big key with that is activating your 24th chromosome. Now, you will say we all have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Let me just give one scientific fact here. And you're the nurse. I'll let you come in next. When they run tests on chromosomes in the pairs, when they run magnetic tests on it, they always find a pair that is not visible to the naked eye, that is not there unless they run the magnetic test on it, and then it's there, but it's not physically seen. It's the 24th. It's their spiritual chromosome pair. And you know what they do, which is funny? They actually throw out that data because they cannot validate it or understand it. So instead of trying to determine what is this and what's going on, we see this 24th pair, but we can't find it anywhere else. We only find it when we do this test. They just throw out that test. That's what they do. And unity field healing activates and begins charging that 24th chromosome, which is the spiritual chromosome, which takes us to that next level. And this is always coming about in this pattern because of where we are in this journey. And that leads us to this, to where we are at. All right, I'm going to unmute you.
Hey.
And the ringing is there.
Okay.
Can you guys tell us if you hear any ringing, or is it just coming through on my screen? But
Mercury should be out of retrograde by now, but who the heck knows?
Retrograde, intrograde, bet it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so the chromosome thing, I'd like to just say something on that real quick because I am a nurse, very science-minded nurse. I haven't read the studies. I believe they're out there. I haven't had a chance to look at them. But what I will say is that there is so much that goes on that we don't know yet about the human body. I mean, they are always coming up with new cures, new treatments, new things to treat new diseases, stuff like that. So of a scientific mind, you cannot just throw out this idea and say that can't be true because you don't know what you don't know. And I know that science and spirituality, or science and faith in something that we can't see, are learning to go hand in hand, but are not there yet. So when I learned about unity field healing, and at first I was like, really? You're going to tell me there's more chromosomes? But being that it's given to and taught by a doctor, I can say that I feel comfortable saying that we never know what could be going on. We don't see everything. Like you said, if they see it, but they can't, it's almost like they can't prove it, or it's there, but it's not there and there at the same time. Just trust in it, because if you experience unity field healing, even as a practitioner or as a receiver, it changes you in so many ways that it's just indescribable. I think it just really fundamentally gets you into an alignment that you've never been in before if you haven't had this kind of healing. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, I wanted to address that and kind of what we're going into next. You can explain it without the ringing that you're hearing. but yeah, I mean, these modalities have been around, and we're hitting a time where things are starting to peak and things are starting to shift, and people are actively starting to look at what is out there that we can't see, what is out there that we don't know, and people are seeking out alternative treatments and energy healing and all these different things that maybe even 10 or 15 years ago they weren't doing, and I think it's important that we bring what we know to the forefront, and we share, because how else are people going to experience it? How else are people going to get that healing that can help you move on to whatever the next step is? And I think that's kind of where, Thomas, you and I started to come in and started well, why don't you tell the whole story about it, because I think you do a better job at that than I do.
Well, and just to hit back, people, once again, what we don't realize and what's going to happen is there's a lot of gaps in science,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of gaps in spirituality. And they're going to start seeing, oh, they fit. And they lock together and explain each other. That is where we're moving to. Even the idea of the DNA,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until 2012, let's be very clear with this, scientists could not figure out DNA. They knew what maybe 5-6% of our DNA actually did. And that was all about the codes of the physical body. The other 90-95% of the DNA, they had no clue what it meant. None. And the neat thing about that was, it was around 2012-ish. What scientists did is they said, you know what, let's take a different approach. And they brought in linguistic experts to study DNA. And the results were to everyone else mind-blowing. What they found is the other 90% of the DNA was a language. It was a code. But we just couldn't read it yet. Now, what it is our Akashic record. We don't know that yet. We can't read it yet. That's what it is. It's that spirituality that's going to come in with the scientists. But we're not at that point. We're not at the point of understanding, because we are still in that old energy. Even healing, we say this word and we throw it out there. Medical healing is going to change. Doctors are not going to be like they are now. Yes, we will still have medical doctors, but they will work with us in a different capacity. It will all change, because we will be able to do so much more ourselves. But that gives us to where we are now. And I explained the history of healing and the common modalities of it. None of them did I ever say the word really truly is about healing. Because when we say healing, I'm going to heal my arm from hurting or this, that's a different type of healing. What we're doing is we are actually shifting our vibration, shifting our consciousness to match that of the planet, the universe, our creator, and where we are going. It's about taking what we are and who we are to the level that we want to go, to the level to match where we are. And I say that because the planet itself, in the 50s, the planet itself went past the point of no return, meaning we were going 5D. And in the 80s, it was official that humanity was going to be able to survive with it. And now we are in the transition period. And now it's about taking us to that next level. And the speed in which we go is up to us. We must remember this small little fact. Less than 1% of the square root of the population needs to be awakened and opened and at the higher vibration for the whole population to be impacted. So it's not about bringing forth a change and opening up everyone in this world. In fact, prior to COVID, we were maybe at 18% of the population was open and on this trajectory in this path. Now we're up to about 27%, like upper 20s now, which is a huge shift compared to it was only ever in the low teens. It was all this has happened at the right timing. And so I'll start with myself. My journey has been unique and it's been quick and rapid and all that stuff. I also knew that I was supposed to do something, but I have no idea what it is. And I kept on having an expectation of what it was supposed to be. And when I finally, a few weeks ago, let go of that expectation and just said, I realized I was trying to be specific. I said, let's open up to whatever it is that's going to happen. And it's interesting because Deanna and I were doing a healing. I don't know, it's not a healing, just a meditation. I'm like, let's do a meditation. And I already knew some things. One of the first times we did a healing right afterwards, I did a healing on each other. Right afterwards, she had a vision. And I had her tell that story actually on here because it was really important. And it was about the Syrians. And I don't think she truly knew what she was talking about fully yet at that point. But when I heard it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can see it. I know what she's doing. I know what this is. But learned.
Well, let me say that was before I took the Unity Field Healing training. So it was telling me things that I was about to learn about anyways in a way that I could understand. So it was huge. It was really, it was very changing.
And so, long story short, I began realizing in my own way that we had this partnership here that was needed to come together. Because I knew about the Syrians. I knew they were with me from my own experiences, but my experiences were night and day to what hers is. And I think that's very important to this. But they also showed us and showed me and her in certain life together as a brother and sister like thing. And that was important because it symbolized a lot more than just that. And knowing the galactic background that she has, it was we needed to work together in some capacity. What it is, once again, had to come out to letting it happen. And that's so important. Letting it happen instead of just trying to fit it into a box. And so I think we finally both did that. Said, okay, what is this going to be? And so we literally talked about why don't we do. And it was actually, you were saying you were going to start doing healings and do it for real. And I'm like, well, what if we did them together?
Yep.
And it was like, I don't know how this is going to work, but there's something we need to do together. And so literally, we were sitting in my living room, and I was on one couch, she was on the other couch, and I do this, and she'll say I do this all the time. I lay there with my eyes shut, and I just do whatever I want to do. Day shift she was on, she'd say yes, that's all you do. But we started talking about what we were doing, and it was interesting because what came was exactly what our strengths are. Deanna has for a while been more of like had this medium side to her, this connecting with people. She's in the healthcare field. She's in the nursing field, that carrying that direct contact with people. Now I'm putting it together even right as we speak in this way.
Yeah.
And I've always been the opposite. Like, yes, I can work with people, but I've always been on like the outside. Like I'm looking at this bigger picture. And even in the things I've done with people, it's never been, ooh, I'm doing this healing on you, or I'm doing this, and I'm giving you this specific information from a guide or for whatever. And it's just not me. And it's funny because every time I go to healing with certain people, they talk about my guides and give me a message and stuff. I'm like, great. I don't do that. I can't. It's just not where I'm connected. Can I sit down and give a message? Yes. Is it as simple as it is for other people? No. But it's these different ways of connecting. That when we were thinking about this and putting it together, I'm laying there and channeling and coming up with this vision of this. I'm going to call it it's a quantum transmission into this transition. But it's all about that person, the soul. And so what we saw, and we both had this, was Deanna working on the immediate, on the micro level, there with the soul, there with the person's team, with their guides, with those that have been interacting with them on a very close level. Doing a form of healing, doing a form of bringing forth the intention, doing forth some cleansing. While I am in the background, connecting with the galactic beings. And they see you always circle around when you do this. It's a collection of galactic beings, not just Syrians, but it's beings that are part of the one thing we don't realize is we can say we're Pleiadians, we can say you're Syrians. Yes, we are more of one species than others, but there are 12. And our DNA is a mix of everything for a reason. And so parts of us are going to be from these different races, and parts of us from the same race, but different parts of that race. And so there's the Horoshi. I'm not going to explain it because it's not for you to understand fully at this point. It's too much. Not talking to you, Jana, but everyone else.
I know.
But working with that galactic energy to activate those things within you. So that way, as we work towards the now and what's getting you forward in the right path, push you forward through that transition, we're going to set up the stage so that all the activations are turned on. So that way, when you reach that point, it's no longer a struggle. It is, you are ready faster. Now we're giving you the opportunity a little quicker because we are connecting you with another level of guidance. They're showing me, yes. Yes, it's like so when Deanna said maybe a couple months ago, when you shared your story months ago about how it's like you're beamed in, like from the one planet to the other. It's the same thing. They beam in their whole council in around you, and we then are activating. Well, Deanna's working on the immediate, the stuff directly on the human physical life, this life. We are doing the energetic shift. All the energy moving around you and the field moving around you and the light and yes. It's like an artwork. Anyways, this is helping you transition into this next stage. Helping the planet transition into the next stage. Because we are getting so much closer to being in that permanent 5D of the planet where we will almost all shift because the planet has shifted. And that's what this is. And you know, we share this because it's not like it's new. I mean, it's new, something we haven't even done it yet. And so we're sharing this live for a couple reasons. One, we're going to share what we're going to be doing. Two, we're looking for a couple volunteers to say, hey, yes, I want to do this. I want to be part of it. Because this is something to help everyone out. And it's two of us doing this because we need that partnership to go there. But that's all I'm gonna say. It's something different, something we've been working for without even knowing it. What do you want to say? I'm just rambling now.
I think it's important that we do things, we do the same general things, but we do some different things too. So when you were talking about, people with messages and all this, I might just tell you your great great grandmother says hi. Um because that's part of what I do. And with you out there in the farther reaches, to say, um you're working on that meta level, that big level. And I think that between the two of us, I mean, we have to do this as a team. This is a two-person deal here, and the implications are going to be huge, because I think it is going to help a lot of people. And I think that we're going to be able to really help people in all of these ways you've described, and probably more that we haven't figured out yet. So I totally want people to volunteer while we're learning and trialing this out, because we need to hear from people that we're doing this on. Is this what you're looking for? Is this working the way that you think it is? And what can we do better? So that we can offer just as much help to people, and centering and aligning and healing in that way that we possibly can. So I think the fact that I'm Reiki for 20 years now, I think, and been kind of in this whole metaphysical thing for a while, but I just did Unity Fields April, whereas you did Reiki 4, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I think, something like that. I don't remember when you did Reiki, but you did the IET and you did the Unity Field Healing. So we're coming at the same thing in terms of working to help a person get themselves aligned on different levels. But we're coming in with slightly different takes on it, which means, I don't know, more bang. I think it means that we're going to really be able to make a difference in a way that hasn't been made before. And my guides told me a while ago, which I did not tell Thomas right away, that like we were going to work together, we were going to do something. We were there by, I think their direct words were, you're there by design. And then when we started talking and we started kind of, this whole idea started coming together, I mean, I think it's going to be great. And I think that there's a good chance for impact here, for real positive impact on this. So yeah.
It's not a chance. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, because here's the crazy part of it all. The night we had this conversation and we came up with what it is, and see, this is something people often miss when you take this stride. And so, kind of like this is, the opportunities are thrown out when you get activations like this. The opportunities for you to walk through to the next stage are not just going to come; they're going to come. And so, like, we had this conversation. We said, "Oh, this is what we're doing. This we're calling it." I mean, all within hours. And then an hour or so later, all of a sudden, I had this really bad, like, experience, feeling going on, to a point where I had to go outside. And none of this is planned. We didn't even sit down and walk through this. It is happening. I'm out there. I'm grounding myself, and my first next initial thought is, I'm sitting down, and I didn't even say anything. I just pointed. And if you remember, I pointed to the chair outside and said, "Sit."
Sit. Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew something was there, but I had no idea what was there. But you were able to connect with it. You didn't like it, but you were able to connect with it and have a conversation with it. But your conversation with it then allowed me to know much more what it was we were dealing with, which then allowed you to deal with the direct part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like, in this case, a distraction. Well, then I was around with a whole different set of beings that were dealing with it in another way. And in that case, it was just, I do this. It was an easy way for us to not only take this thing that had happened to come along, and we were able to send it to light and love. but we had to do it in the way we did it, where you were working with it head on, and I was working with it with a galactic process. And together we were able to do what was needed to bring it. And you think about this afterwards, and it's a simple example, but it's this activation. It is the team, our guide, saying, "Hello, here you go. You see, here's an example. This is what you're doing." Now it's not saying we're going to go out there and be Ghostbusters.
Maybe sometimes.
I should think, yes, that will happen, because it will happen. There are things that I should think. Once again, it's all about belief. If you are a believer of those things, they can attach to you. Anyways, but that's how it goes. And so that was just for us the validation of this, what we need to do.
Yeah, basically we were given it right then and there. They were like, okay, here you go.
Practice. Do it.
Just do your thing. And we kind of like when you take a kid and teach them how to swim by just kind of putting them in the pool. And it was mind-blowing and impactful. It was really something. And the fact that we could do it together like that really was important, because I don't think either one of us was prepared to do anything like that on our own. And it really did take us different ways to get things cleared up. So yeah, I mean, if there's ever any validation needed that this is the right thing to do, that was it right there in a nutshell.
Right. So with that, I got to go take care of some things with my kids. But guys, I thank you for watching. Mm-hmm. If you do have any questions or would like us to connect and be part of this healing, send me a message and we'll be glad to set up a time as we go through and get the first couple healings in. And
we can do virtual or in person, given where you're located. I think we can do either, so we can certainly work something out.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody. See ya. Bye. Bye.